Hello and welcome to the Hancock Creative Podcast. I'm Shawn Hancock.
And I'm Missy Hancock.
And I'm Vinton Bain. I'm curious, what are we talking about today?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We are talking about curiosity.
Ooh, will there be cat killing involved?
Yes.
Just 9 times. That's all.
That's what it takes.
So today on Curiosity, we got curious and we decided to try something new. And if it sucks, we're sorry. So what we're curious about is what would happen if we just made our notes separately from each other and then came in and discussed them spontaneously.
Without knowing what
each other's going to talk about.
And I didn't make any notes.
So we're just dealing with Vinton's brain.
Oh, no.
So anyway, so we're going to try it. We just thought that would be that was an interesting approach for us and something different than we've been doing. We've been mind mapping. So we just kind of both made our own notes today. So once you kick us off, Shawn, this was your topic that you were introducing and wanting to talk about. And I think it's a good one.
Are you blaming me for this?
Yes. But if it's good, I'll take some credit. Okay,
so there are some people in this world who never give curiosity a second thought. And usually, I guess I am making a generalization, but generally speaking, these people are boring. That's my opinion, that those people end up becoming boring human beings because they don't usually exercise curiosity, because I think that as you grow older, become an adult, you really start to get a grasp of the world around you, and you think you already know everything there is to know. And curiosity just sort of, leaves.
Wanes.
Yeah, and you do your daily routine, go to work and blah, 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 and then you lose all sense of wonder and curiosity, and you think you know what there is to know. And the truth is that there is so much information that we personally we couldn't even begin to grasp the amount of stuff there is to know about our universe and the world that we live in, even the world that just surrounds us daily. And so we forget to be curious about things. And curiosity is like so important to our creative abilities, but not even that. Curiosity is important in our own personal education. So I was reading this. Well, I don't really read. I was listening to.
You read? Oh, good God.
I read, but I prefer audiobooks. So.
While you're working on graphics jobs and
That's
stuff,
right.
And your graphic novel, which is you're working on diligently.
So I was listening to, I should say, the autobiography of Stephen Fry called The Fry Chronicles.
And how lucky are you to get to sit there and listen to Stephen Fry?
Yeah, because I have a little bit of a man crush on Stephen Fry's voice.
Because he's wonderful.
Because he has got a great voice.
He does have a wonderful voice.
I wish I had Stephen Fry's voice.
But you don't.
I don't know why. I wish that. So I could just listen to myself talk all day.
All right.
But if you've never listened to Stephen Fry read an audiobook to you, you're missing out. You should definitely check out an audiobook read by Stephen Fry. So I would recommend, obviously, the Harry Potter series. And
although he's not the reader on the American.
It's the British version that he reads for, I think. And then Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And he's actually the voice on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so you might recognize him from that. But anyway, regardless, blah, blah, blah. I was talking about his autobiography, Fry Chronicles. So in that, he makes this really interesting point. He makes lots of them, but this one really stuck out to me. And that is that people will say, and you do hear this all the time, but people will say that they're not that interested in literature because they either had a bad experience in school with it, or they didn't study it so much in school, or that they didn't like their literature teacher, or whatever the case may be. And his point is, what does that have to do with school? Because we have books all around us. Just pick up a book and read. And people really do have this concept that there are certain subjects that are academic subjects. And if we didn't take to it in school, then it's not
for us
it's
anymore.
Not for us, yeah. And so,
which is BS, because most of what we're being fed in school has been so diluted or like not really diluted, but more like condensed into these little like fact nuggets that are boring as crap in textbooks. And so that's not a natural presentation of information. Textbooks are the least interesting way to be introduced to a topic.
Absolutely. Well, I could go on and on about how terrible our education system is,
but don't do
and
that.
how it doesn't really.
2 hours later.
Yeah, it doesn't really. It's not a natural way to learn, and a natural way to learn is exactly the way that he said: is pick up a book and read. And he says that the reason people don't educate themselves on that, or any subject for that matter, is because they're not interested. And they're not interested because they lack curiosity. They're not curious. And if we are not actively pursuing curiosity, we will just sort of live out this dull existence, just doing the mundane, doing the everyday thing, and not having a desire to educate ourselves. And education doesn't stop when you graduate. It continues. And the way it continues is by nurturing your own curiosity.
I had written down here, demands of life, practicality, logic, they all hinder and dull curiosity. And I think it does. I mean, it's like we get bogged down in life. You get practical. It's like you grow up and you're supposed to be responsible and practical and logical. And all those things dull your curiosity. They all squash it. When curiosity is what keeps life interesting. As soon as you devalue curiosity and you devalue learning for the sake of discovery, you take away a joyful and meaningful life.
Yeah. Curiosity brings life. It revives life. If you want excitement in your life, if you want to revive your life, start being curious about things. Start looking at small things that you take for granted,
Well, when I was thinking about curiosity, I realized that curiosity is the fuel for creativity.
Yeah.
So it's like curiosity and creativity are intrinsically linked, because without a curious nature, writers have no material if they're not voraciously reading and looking at and learning new things and putting all those pieces together. And that's what creativity is. And so if your curiosity gets dulled to where you just aren't curious at all, then no wonder people aren't creative. More people don't consider themselves creative. More people aren't even remotely interested in their own lives. and that's sad.
That's true.
Right. You need curiosity to even paint a picture that's not exactly what you're seeing. If you want to change it at all, you have to be curious as what will it look like if I do this? What will it look like if I add an extra I here?
Yeah.
And then if you're writing, unless you're just writing down like a biography, you need curiosity to go, well, what would happen if this character said this thing, or if this character flipped this table, or where would this scenario take me? You need that curiosity to explore your creativity and find.
Yeah. To grow, artistically, you would need to always ask the question of what if this would happen, or what if I did this, what if I put these two things together, what would happen if I dropped this on its head or something.
Right. Well, I mean, I always think of curiosity as external, but curiosity is internal too. It's like that whole meaning of life, that whole who am I, and I mean, I know that's tiresome to some people, who am I? But it is important in just living your fullest life. It's really important to know who you are and to define who you are and to decide who you are and to make those choices. And so sometimes the curiosity journey is an inward journey. It's like, I'm curious, how do I feel about that? I've not ever thought for myself, really. I just have taken what I've been taught to think and told. And I mean, we have touched on that in another episode, but that's curiosity too, when you go inward into yourself and kind of unearth this golden being you are inside. I like to imagine myself a pretty little golden angel. Sorry, stop me now. No, I wanted someone to interrupt and make me stop talking.
I think that's great.
I thought it was funny that you mentioned listening to audiobooks, and when you guys arrived, you had mentioned what we were going to do tonight and mentioned I might want to look up some quotes. So I just briefly looked up some quotes, and I thought it was funny that I think I only found like maybe 3 or 4 quotes I'm going to share, but 2 of those were from audiobooks that you listened to this week.
Oh my gosh,
really?
that's so funny.
So you touched on this one. I think it's interesting to even think about going inward. He's talking about outward here, but even looking inward, we can get frustrated with curiosity and say, there's just too much. How can I ever figure this all out?
Yeah.
And Bill Bryson, in A Short History of Nearly Everything, says, our instinct may be to see the impossibility of tracking everything down as frustrating, dispiriting, perhaps even appalling, but it can just as well be viewed as almost unbearably exciting. We live on a planet that has a more or less infinite capacity to surprise. What reasoning person could possibly want it any other way?
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring up that I also listened to that, but I haven't finished it. But what's interesting about that is that he says that he realized at some point in his life, and I think he was, as an adult, he realized, I don't know anything about the world that I live in. And he spent several years just being curious and looking everything up and researching everything just because he was interested, because he was curious about, tectonic plates or how, scientists have figured out how far the moon is from the earth, or how,
and how they did that. How did they know that?
How and he asked, how do they do that? How do they figure that out? How do they know, And it's like, we're talking about like they knew these things back in the medieval or Renaissance or, even ancient Rome. They knew some of this stuff. Yeah. It's like, how could they possibly figure this out back then? It's really interesting.
I can completely relate to that too. One of the things that my wife, Tessa, has mentioned to me as being one of her favorite aspects of me is that I'm constantly curious. So if I hear something and I go, how does that work? I immediately jump on Google or Wikipedia and I'll read for 10 minutes just to find out how something works or why it is that way or what the history on that thing is. Yeah. And she's like, most people don't care. They just go, oh, that's interesting and move on with their lives. But you constantly have to look up what it is and why it is. And I'm like, I do. I really, my house is filled with books, and a lot of them are reference books because I want to be like, oh, well, how does this thing work? And okay, how does this? Oh, okay. Yeah. And I love histories and letters and seeing how people's minds works. And I love listening to commentary tracks on DVDs for that same exact reason, because I go, oh, well, why did they make the scene this way? And oh, why did that person do this? And when they're on the commentary track, obviously they don't give me everything I want to know, but sometimes they're like, oh, well, we did it because of this, and then this thing happened. And I'm like, yo, that's so interesting. And most other people are like, I'm going to sleep now. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting that our girls that are still at home, they're like always talking about commentaries on, these animation movies that they have. And they're always talking about how they did this or did that in making the movie. And it's just like, how do you know all this? Because they sit there and they listen to the commentaries. They watch it over again.
They work on their own stuff. Yeah, they'll work on their own art projects and stuff.
Do children normally do this? I don't know. But curious children do, I guess.
Yeah.
So I have this story. It's probably stupid, but it's from my childhood that I thought was interesting enough to remember, I guess.
I think you mean probably amazing.
I think that's what you mean. What the hell
probably
is that?
Stupid.
It's probably
you can say it in that voice, but you still, it's probably amazing.
Okay, so before you tell your story, there's this line in what's the show with the boy who's going into the future? It's a Disney show. Keep moving forward.
Meet the Robinsons?
Help me out.
Yeah,
Thank you. Meet the Robinsons. So the main character has a roommate, and he has this outlook on life that's summarized with a scene where everyone's going, hi, whatever your name is. Hi, Dewey. Hi, this. Hi. Everyone's saying hi to him in the hall, and hey, you want to go play ball after school? And he goes, they all hated me.
While telling about his
when
histories,
he saw that, he's narrating his childhood. He goes, they all hated me. And so Shawn has a tendency to say that when we saw that part of the movie, I bust out laughing. I was like, "Oh my God, they all hated me."
Because that's the story of my childhood.
It's probably stupid. It's like this kid. Oh my God, she relates to Charlie Brown way too much. Okay, so all right. Now, tell your amazing
Tell my incredibly
children's story.
Now that it's been built up, it's totally not worth it.
It will definitely be overrated now.
It's like I'm telling the story to say something else.
Okay.
But anyway, so when I was a kid on the playground, I happened to notice that there was like this muddy patch that had previously rained, and so the water had washed over this mud.
I love it when that
Do you?
happens. I love it.
I
I
do
used to
too.
love looking at that.
And
yes.
it was like, it makes that using my fingers as
Yeah.
if people are going to see this, but it makes that little runoff.
Marbling.
Yeah,
of
marbling.
The different colors of
and all
sand
that.
and dirt.
It's
yes.
really cool looking. Well, I had noticed that somebody had hit it with their shoe or something and knocked a piece of it out, a chunk of it,
Yeah.
And it's like, I wonder if I, being curious, I wonder
Yeah.
if I could sculpt that back,
Yeah.
And so I tried, and of course wasn't able to because, all I had was my hands,
But you tried, and you were
I
curious.
tried. But there were these twins. Not two
because
twins.
in essence, twins are two.
So there's two, not four.
Okay.
So there were these twins that were watching me, these twin girls, and they were like, "What are you doing?"
Oh my God.
What
I hate them already.
are you doing? And I was like, I'm fixing it. I'm putting this back. And they go, why? And I was like, because I'm curious if I can or not. I was wondering if I could do it or not. And they're like, you are so weird. But the point of that is that if you are going to pursue curiosity,
You're going
brace
to be
yourself.
called weird.
Yeah,
probably.
And someone is going to go, what
what
are you doing?
doing?
And that's okay because you know what? They are boring and you didn't want to hang out with them anyway.
No, I thought those girls were nice, but there's only so far you could take someone, right? I mean, at some point, their weirdness ends where yours begins. Not everybody's going to understand. Not everybody's going to jump on board with your weird curiosity, but ignore that and just keep going. Just keep looking and keep investigating. Keep being curious because you will discover some amazing things that you didn't know before. And that will lead to you being more knowledgeable about the world around you, more knowledgeable at that particular thing. And it will also increase your creativity, your creative powers, as it were.
Otherwise known as superpowers.
And so I've always thought it was cool to look at skin texture, and you do this too.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about looking at the back of your hand, and the older you get, the cooler it is.
Oh my God. If you are younger than us, we're mid-40s, here's what happens. Your skin lets go of your body slowly.
It loses its grip.
And so one day you may go to a public restaurant, it might be a public restroom in a restaurant. I don't know, but a public restroom. And they have like the super power blowers and you put your hand under there and it just looks like your skin becomes soup and goes scooping out to the outer edges under the air, and you have to sit there and play for like 5 minutes and keep pushing the button. And actually, there's no button on
that.
this. You doing? Yeah. Well, actually, I did. I mean, I was doing that, and I was like, oh, this is really frightening because, obviously my skin's letting go of my body, but it was so cool. So, sorry.
So I've always admired skin texture, and I was like always curious, is it possible to sculpt skin texture the way that it really is,
Yeah.
And personally I've not really been able to do it because I haven't known how, but I've done a little bit.
You tried.
I've done a little practicing, but there's techniques that people are able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you can see really excellent skin texturing in film and special effects, makeup, and things like that. And so there's actually, for anyone who's curious about doing that, you can find Stan Winston's school on, well, you can find them on YouTube, but they do have some classes teaching
that you can subscribe to.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Pay a monthly fee, and they
Yeah.
look amazing. We should probably do that.
And so I'm telling you, whenever I saw the trailer for Star Wars 7 and there was that skin texturing of Admiral Akbar or whatever, I was like, oh my God, it almost looks like cookie dough. It was so cool. But it's like people other than myself were curious about
How
that.
do I make this?
How
look
can I
this
do
way?
that?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Some of the techniques is you lay a piece of plastic down and then you punch a hole in it. And the way that the plastic
Stretch it.
pushes
Yeah.
the clay, it's just amazing. This is all, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about this? But anyway, you just can be curious about anything. And it will take you into its own bizarre universe.
And it will make life more interesting. What the heck is the point in living if there's nothing interesting in it?
So I have this little breakdown that I made that
Breakdown.
I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but curiosity leads to interest.
You going to do this in a Yoda voice too? Okay. All right. Never mind then.
Curiosity leads to interest. Interest leads to something else.
No learning. Okay. We'll stop.
The Hancock's
Talking
your
normal.
creative Jedi.
So curiosity leads to interest, and interest leads to learning or knowledge, and learning leads to valuing it, value, I guess.
Yeah.
And value leads to loving, and loving leads to passion, and passion leads to action, and action leads to success.
Ooh.
So you could be curious about something and on your road to success. If that's important to you, which it is to a lot of people, they're all about success. But,
Yeah.
You can't ignore curiosity because, as I see it, curiosity leads to success.
Absolutely. So did Julia Childs. She saw it that way too. And interestingly enough, I had to look up this quote in my own Etsy shop. So if you want to buy a hand-lettered version of it, wah, wah, wah. The quote is, find something you're passionate about and keep tremendously interested in it. Julia Child. And that was her advice just in life in general. But when she, started pursuing cooking, I love it that she started that aspect of her life, pretty late in life for what most people would consider to be the thing that she's most remembered for.
Right.
And so the key is just finding something we're passionate about and keeping tremendously interested in it. And maybe I think that might put a little too much pressure on it for some people to mention the passion first, because I mean, if you are in that place where you have been dulled down by the hardships and bullshits of life, then you're dull and you're like your shine's worn off. You need you need a good
and you know
polishing.
it when it's happened.
And you know it when it's happened. Oh, girl, so because that will happen. The hardships and bullshits of life will try to destroy your innate sense of curiosity and wonder. That quote starts with the passion, saying find something you're passionate about. But really, you can do it the other way. You can just, am I interested in anything? For people who are wanting to, start developing a more joy-filled life and a more creative life, that's a good place to start. It's just, okay, anything. Is there anything I'm interested in? A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic book, which is a great book on creativity if you haven't read it. She says at one point when she's trying to figure out what is the next thing she's going to write, she was just like, I just wanted something to be interested in. And she got into gardening, and that led to her next project in a very strange, and her next fiction project. It wasn't. So anyway, it was interesting, but it's like, that's what we have to do as creative beings is just, what am I interested in? And I feel like, I don't know, you get feeling like a failure or something. It's like especially if you're like really flutter from one thing to another, and because that doesn't seem like it fits in a success story. It doesn't seem like it fits in
some
way
people
you're
just work that way better,
Yeah.
just to go from one thing to another.
Yeah. And then eventually all the pieces kind of come together and they serve you. but that's how I work. But then I feel, I'll flutter from one interest to another interest. And it's, I'm a lifetime hobbyist on wellness. I really, really know a lot of things about how you should care for your body. I really, really apply a minuscule amount of those things, but I try, darn it, over and over again. I'm like, oh yeah. So, and that's okay, because the knowledge, I've been banking it, and every once in a while I'm like, oh, I need to be taking some coconut oil or whatever. I need some turmeric.
It surfaces,
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so that's good. It's better than not knowing those things.
Yeah, and it's just life can be fun and interesting and more than your kid's soccer game. Not that that's not great and riveting that your kid has a soccer game, but I think parents in particular, with 6 kids, I'm speaking from experience, you can just I see people, I'm too damn selfish, I think, probably, to actually let this happen that much to me, but you can get where you just everything in your life is about your child's life. Right. And when that happens, when everything is about them, well, for one, how boring are you and how unhappy are you really after a while? That only is fulfilling for a limited amount of time, and then you start feeling empty. And if you're like freaking...
Well, and you don't let go, like they become adults, and then you just keep hanging on to them, and then you just insert yourself into every aspect of their life, even though they're grown people.
Yeah. You want to model what life should be, which is vivacious and full of interest and intrigue and excitement and fun and creativity. And if you're only interested in their schedule and whether, their soccer games and their this and that, then you're not modeling for them how to live a fulfilling life, because that's not terribly fulfilling. And I'm not saying you don't sow into your children. Of course you do. And you do spend time talking to them about stuff that they're interested in, and you research stuff with them and all that. And it becomes your own curiosity too. But it's important that you have your own journey on these things.
But not to change.
Curiosity and wonder are not just for children. Okay. Now say what
but
you want to say.
not to change the subject, but it's like, you can focus all your attention on them, and that's where their attention is. If you've got no interest of your own, then the attention doesn't come back to you. It's not a shared thing. It's just like they're constantly thinking about themselves because that's all you're interested in.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't build a healthy human being. It's like a healthy life is give and take. Healthy relationships are give and take.
Right. And if you have your own interest, it's healthier for them if you have an interest in something else that's not them. If you have an interest in something, then they'll have an interest in that as well. But if you become a dull person, then they end up resenting you because of that.
Absolutely.
But that's a different subject.
That's about parenting. Sorry about that.
So to change the subject a little bit,
please do.
You mentioned curiosity leading to success eventually. It occurs to me that people who change the world do it through curiosity.
Yes.
So you can apply this to a lot of different things, and maybe it's a little loose applying, but revolutionaries who change things and bring justice to the world do so because they're curious. What does the world look like when we are equals?
Right.
Yeah.
And on top of that, people, obviously inventors are curious. What does the world look like when we can fly?
Yeah.
What does the world look like, we're going way back, when we can float?
Yeah.
What does the world look like when I can go into the water and breathe?
Yeah.
And I think on that point, I found a quote by Roger Ebert that says, Socrates told us the unexamined life is not worth living. I think he's calling for curiosity more than knowledge. In every human society, at all times and at all levels, the curious are at the leading edge.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important fact, that it's the people who are chasing their curiosities who change things in this world, who bring change and bring beauty and life to this world, because they're not afraid to question and go, well, what if this was different? What if this was different? What if I did this? What if this thing? And that's how you how things don't stay the same, how we don't stay in the Stone Age is through curiosity. What if I rub these sticks together? Oh, I just created fire. Now I don't have to freeze at night.
Well, there two things on that. It's like when you start doing that, it's like you're gonna have the people who are like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Be reasonable," and they want you to.
Why are you rubbing those sticks together?
Why are you rubbing those sticks together?
That's not gonna do anything. Go back to painting on the wall.
But one thing when you were sharing that popped up in my mind too, that is an underrated value, is people's ability to say, "I don't know." We get so caught up in appearing to have our crap together and appearing to know things and appearing like, well, I know that. I've got this together. It's almost become, for some people, really, it's like, they can't say, "I don't know." And if you can't say, "I don't know," then you can't learn and you can't follow your curiosity, because that's what curiosity is I don't know, and you go chasing that down. I don't know about that. I hadn't thought about that. And so curiosity is fuel for creativity. And then humility is the fuel for the curiosity, being at a place where you can just say, "I don't know," and let's explore. And it's just important that we let people do that. We let people not know things, and we stop putting people up on pedestals and holding them to this place of, well, you better have all the answers for me, because it's a better world if people can freely say, "I don't know. Let's find out. I don't know."
I think one of the obstacles to curiosity is that we feel like we grow out of it. We're adults now. We should have things figured out. We're not children anymore. We have to move past that. C.S. Lewis actually does a great job of talking about things that we shouldn't grow out of in some of his writings. And this is actually a quote I hadn't read before, but it's on similar things that he often talked about. He says, "If we are to use childish and infantile as terms of disapproval, we must make sure that they refer only to the characteristics of childhood, which we become better and happier by outgrowing. Who in his sense would not keep, if he could, that tireless curiosity, that intensity of imagination, that facility of suspending disbelief, that unspoiled appetite, that readiness to wonder, to pity, and to admire?"
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you don't have to grow out of curiosity. There's enough out there in the world to fill your curiosity until you're 120. You're not going to live that long. So.
I am. I plan on living till I'm 120, and then I will go to bed the night of my 120th birthday and say to all of my family and friends, "I love you. Good night and goodbye." And I'll go to sleep and die in my sleep. That's my plan.
And you'll also say, "Stay curious."
I will. I will. There you go.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
And then we'll all say, "I wonder if she will die tonight." We'll all be standing around the bed, which I'll be 120 as well.
Yes.
You'll say that like every night for a month or something. You're just thinking, tonight's the night. And everyone's just like, "Oh, she's singing it again."
Yeah.
So we had been talking about that if people were looking up this podcast and were like, "Oh, it's a podcast on creativity," I've been thinking about, okay, so what you're getting really is a bunch of philosophy. And which we did put it, in fairness, on iTunes. We're underneath a philosophy category, I think, somewhere. Are we? I'm pretty sure we are. I'm looking at Vinton.
I think the main category is self-help, but I think the subcategory was philosophy.
Yeah. So, we warned you. But it's because you have to embrace certain philosophies to step into a more creative life. But I know from experience and from just being who I am, is if I was looking up a podcast on creativity, I would be like, "Give me something practical, for the love of God, tell me what to do." And a lot of us are, it's like, we're busy, just tell me what to do. So we're going to try to give you at the end of every episode something practical that is just here's something you can do this week to apply this. And so our practical thing for this curiosity episode is, this week we would love for you to try to find at least one thing every day to be interested in, to explore, to examine, to learn more about. And be sure that at least some of your exploration is offline. Because, that's how we all learn things now. But and of course, much of it will be online. But be sure that you're engaging in
real life,
the
world
life
around
too,
you,
the world
the
around
tactile world.
Exactly, the tactile world. All right, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hancock Creative Shop, on Twitter at Hancock Creative, and we would just love to sell you some stuff at Etsy. And that is www.etsy.com/shop/Hancock Creative Shop. And we have some t-shirts and art and just fun stuff, some hand-lettered quotes and stuff like that. A special thanks to Vinton Bain, who makes all this happen because he's awesome and amazing. And his website is graphocast.com, and he's exploring podcasting universe, and we'll be bringing more things to you soon. And we'd also like to thank Gabriel Knight Hancock for the intro and outro music. His website is gabrielknight.bandcamp.com. You can hear more of his music there. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Have a blessed day.